You will never believe what happened to us last week. Imagine this, it's a sunny afternoon. Kids are playing outside, laughter fills the air, and everything feels normal, until it isn't. One moment, our world is peaceful. The next, chaos erupts in a way that we could never have anticipated. Picture this, our child's wheelchair, the very thing that gives them freedom, being taken right in front of our eyes. And yes, it was caught on camera. It all started innocently enough. We were enjoying a quiet afternoon in our front yard. Our child, full of energy and excitement, was moving around the driveway, exploring and laughing. I was recording a little video to send to family, capturing those priceless moments. Little did we know a storm was approaching, not in the form of clouds or weather, but in the form of one person, an HOA Karen. She's the type you've heard about, the one who always knows the rules, who believes she has the power to enforce them anywhere, anytime. We've had minor run-ins before. A complaint here, a stern knock on the door there. But nothing could have prepared us for what happened next. She stormed onto our property without warning, glaring at us like she owned the entire neighborhood. And then she made her move. In a flash, she grabbed the wheelchair. Yes, the wheelchair. Our child's mobility, our lifeline for independence, was suddenly in her hands. I was frozen, my heart pounding in disbelief. Other neighbors peeked from behind their curtains, eyes wide, unsure if they should intervene. The camera in my hand was shaking, but I kept it rolling. Every second counted. Every moment documented. Her reasoning? A bizarre claim about property lines, HOA rules, and some imaginary violation that somehow justified her actions. But this wasn't about rules, it was about control, power, and an utter lack of empathy. Our child's face went from joy to confusion, then fear. It was a nightmare unfolding in broad daylight, right in front of our home. By the time she finally returned the wheelchair, the damage was done. Our child didn't feel safe. Our family didn't feel safe. And the neighborhood suddenly felt less like a community and more like a battlefield. We knew we had to take action, but we also knew that this footage would become the most important piece of evidence in our fight. The question now is, what happens next? How do you confront someone who abuses power while hiding behind rules? And more importantly, how do you protect your family from someone who thinks they're above everyone else? After the terrifying incident with the wheelchair, we knew one thing. This wasn't going to be swept under the rug. HOA Karen had overstepped every imaginable boundary, and we had to protect our family and make sure what happened was documented, undeniable and impossible to ignore. But taking action wasn't simple. We had to be strategic, careful, and precise. One wrong move could escalate things further. The first step was reviewing the footage. I replayed the video again and again, each time feeling a mix of anger, disbelief, and determination. There she was, walking boldly onto our property, grabbing the wheelchair and acting as if she had a right to do so. The camera caught every expression, every step, every overbearing motion. I realized this wasn't just a private matter anymore. It was evidence, and evidence is power. Next, we reached out to neighbors. We needed witnesses, people who had seen the incident unfold. Some were hesitant, afraid of backlash from the HOA. Others, though, were furious, silently frustrated by Karen's constant policing and unprovoked interference in everyone's lives. Slowly, we began to build a support network. Their statements wouldn't just corroborate our story. They would show a pattern. HOA Karen wasn't just a concerned neighbor. She was a problem, and this wasn't the first time she had crossed the line. Then came the paperwork. Complaints, emails, formal documentation. I drafted everything with painstaking detail, noting times, dates, the behavior, and most importantly, the violation or lack thereof on our part. We weren't just writing complaints. We were creating a record of harassment. Each word felt like armor, protecting us from the next possible encounter. Meanwhile, the emotions ran high. Our child, once excited to play outside, now hesitated, glancing nervously at the driveway. The wheelchair wasn't just a tool. It was a symbol of independence, trust, and safety. And now it had been weaponized against us. Watching their tiny face go from joy to fear in an instant was heartbreaking. This wasn't about rules or property. It was about human decency, empathy, and respect. I also contacted local authorities, seeking guidance on legal options and rights. While HOA disputes often fall into a gray area, the fact that this was caught on camera strengthened our position immensely. The police advised documenting everything, meticulously, and warned that HOA retaliation could be actionable. We realized that knowledge and preparation were our best weapons. By the end of the day, we had a plan. Evidence gathered, neighbors supporting us, authorities informed. But deep down, we knew that confrontation was inevitable. HOA Karen wouldn't back down easily. And now we had the proof to confront her, without escalating into chaos. The real challenge was coming. exposing her behavior while protecting our family, and ensuring this nightmare never happened again. With evidence in hand and a strategy in place, we knew the confrontation with HOA Karen was unavoidable. We couldn't let fear control us anymore, and our child deserved to feel safe in their own home. That afternoon, we decided to face the situation head-on, but carefully, strategically, and with all the proof ready to back us up. As she approached our property again, clipboard in hand and that infamous glare fixed on us, I took a deep breath. This wasn't going to be easy. HOA Karen thrived on intimidation, on making people feel powerless. But now, the tables had turned. I had the footage, witness statements, and documentation, all of it laid out like armor against her unpredictable behavior. The first moment of contact was tense. She tried to dismiss the incident, waving her hands and muttering something about rules and community standards. But I calmly held up the phone and pressed play. The footage rolled. Her walking onto our property, taking the wheelchair. The confusion and fear on our child's face, all undeniable. She froze. For the first time, she couldn't talk her way out. The neighbors we had spoken to quietly watched from their yards, validating everything silently with their presence. She stammered, trying to justify herself, but her excuses fell flat. It was clear that everyone watching could see what had actually happened. And then, the moment escalated. Instead of walking away quietly, she shouted over us, trying to provoke a reaction. But we stayed calm. Our voice was steady, firm, and controlled. We weren't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing us flustered or scared. What happened next was almost surreal. She attempted to threaten us, hinting at fines, paperwork, and HOA retaliation. But we were prepared. The documentation and legal advice we had gathered gave us confidence. We calmly explained that any further harassment would be reported immediately and could have legal consequences. The power dynamics had shifted. No longer were we victims. We were asserting our rights, protecting our child, and standing our ground. It wasn't just about reclaiming a wheelchair. It was about reclaiming dignity, safety, and control over our own property. Every step we took, every word we spoke, was about setting boundaries and refusing to be intimidated. For our child, seeing us stand firm was transformative. The fear began to fade, replaced by a cautious sense of security. Finally, HOA Karen retreated. She was furious, but we had won this battle. The confrontation wasn't violent or dramatic. It was calculated, documented, and victorious. And in that moment, we realized something profound. Standing up for your family, armed with preparation and evidence, changes everything. But this victory came with a realization. The fight wasn't over. HOA Karen's behavior had been exposed, but she might retaliate in other ways. We needed a plan to protect ourselves and ensure our child's safety long-term. After the confrontation with HOA Karen, a tense silence fell over our neighborhood. The storm had passed, but the aftermath lingered. We knew that winning that moment was only part of the battle. The real challenge was ensuring long-term safety for our child and our family. And with the evidence we had gathered, we finally had the leverage to make sure justice was served. The first step was formal action. We filed an official complaint with the HOA board, submitting every detail, the video footage, witness statements, and documentation of her harassment. It was meticulous, organized, and irrefutable. We demanded accountability, not revenge. We wanted a resolution that would protect not just us, but anyone else who might fall victim to Karen's bullying tactics in the future. Meanwhile, our neighbors began speaking up. Stories started emerging of similar encounters, minor violations used as excuses for intimidation, and property boundaries treated as optional. Our initial report became a catalyst, empowering others to voice their experiences. HOA Karen's pattern of behavior was no longer hidden. It was exposed for everyone to see. For the first time, the community began to rally together, recognizing that this wasn't just a family dispute. It was a systemic problem. Next came legal consultation. With the authorities on our side and clear evidence in our hands, we explored options to ensure this never happened again. We were advised on protective measures, including formal warnings against trespassing and harassment. The key was to maintain control without escalating conflict, a balance we were determined to strike. We realized that preparation, not confrontation, was our strongest weapon. Emotionally, the transformation was profound. Our child regained confidence, moving freely in their wheelchair, laughing, exploring without hesitation. The fear that had clouded their world vanished, replaced by a sense of security and empowerment. For us, it was a powerful lesson. Standing firm in the face of injustice is never easy, but it is always worth it. Courage, evidence, and calm persistence had turned fear into victory. Finally, HOA Karen's influence began to wane. The board, now aware of the situation, could no longer ignore her overreach. Policies were reviewed, boundaries clarified, and our family, once intimidated and vulnerable, now felt safe in our home again. It was a hard-fought battle, but one that restored our sense of community, fairness, and dignity. The takeaway is simple. No one has the right to intimidate, control, or harm your family under the guise of rules. And when injustice strikes, documenting it, gathering support, and standing firm can change everything. What began as a terrifying moment with a wheelchair ended as a story of resilience, justice, and empowerment. If you found this story shocking, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our crazy HOA Karen encounters. Drop a comment below and tell us what you would do if this happened to you. And give this video a like if you want more jaw-dropping stories.